What position is the Senate going to take? Are they going to take a position to defend the integrity, honor, and reputation of the Minnesota Senate? That's what Senator Housley's motion does, is it places us on a course that thus far, members, the Democrats in this chamber have attempted to cover up the behavior of Senator Mitchell, who admittedly broke into her stepmother's home and took things from her home. I have a question. I'm wondering if Senator Murphy would yield for a question, Mr. President.
Senator Murphy, will you yield? She will yield. Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Murphy, we are entertaining a motion here that would require the preparation of a formal request, if the vote passes, for the resignation of Senator Mitchell. Now, I have been told by multiple people that the Democrat caucus have already requested this of her in their private meeting. Did you or any other member of your caucus ask Senator Mitchell to resign?
Senator Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Drazkowski. I am struck, of course, by another effort on the part of the minority to raise a series of issues that put them between a member of this body and their due process. I am struck by the persistence of the minority choosing to spend their time as judge and jury for a person who has been accused, where we don't know the facts, where a subcommittee on ethics has been called, and a court date has been set. When I hear members of the minority suggest that they are upholding the integrity of this body, what I see are members of the majority working to uphold fundamental principles of American democracy, representation, the right of an elected person to cast their ballot on the people who have sent them here, and due process, fundamental American values. And when I observe duly elected members of this body working to sever those rights from an individual, whether it is the right to send a person to represent them or detach a person from due process, I sense a rush to judgment for a purpose that is not about integrity at all. At all. And so, Mr. President, I am not going to spend my time on this floor talking about conversations that I've had with members of our caucus in a caucus meeting. And with that, thank you.
Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Murphy. Well, if you didn't, Senator Murphy, you would have simply said no. And what instead we were presented with was a complicated dodge. And dodging the question tells what it tells. Many members have heard that your caucus has already asked for the resignation of Senator Mitchell. Long before this motion came, and long before any of the motions that have come this week came forward. As a matter of fact, if that's the case, members, where was the Democrats' presumption of innocence when indeed they asked Senator Mitchell to resign in their private meeting? Where was their rush to judgment? Why was there rush to judgment, if indeed it was a rush to judgment, which would have been days earlier than we're talking about here on the floor today? And indeed, if Democrats are suggesting that due process in this body to protect the integrity of this institution is not being afforded, they themselves did not afford due process in their private meeting where they asked Senator Mitchell themselves to resign, and it's apparent that she has said no. So the arguments, Mr. President, that the Democrats are bringing here today as they continue to cover up the behavior so that they can protect their one vote ability to bring forward a radicalized and powerful liberal agenda instead of reaching across the aisle and allowing us to bring bipartisan solutions in a session that would be much, much better ending than what we are seeing here today. So instead of covering it up, they could be coming out and being honest. And the honesty in that case would be they believed, at least members of their caucus believed, that she should resign.
Point of order, Mr. President.
For what purpose do you rise?
Mr. President, Senator Drazkowski has just impugned the integrity of a member of the Senate. He knows better than anyone that that's not appropriate, and their caucus members have already brought that point up in this discussion.
Members, I'm not going to rule, but I am going to gently ask again for us not to impugn each other's integrity, for us to remain focused on the motion that is in front of us and not deviate from that. So with that being said, I just want to remind us that we still have a couple more speakers as well. Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I wasn't impugning the integrity of anyone. I was simply pointing out the hypocrisy in the arguments that have been presented by the Democrats as they pursue their agenda, unbridled agenda, and refuse to pursue the protection of the integrity and honor of this body. Mr. President, would Senator Kupek yield for a question?
Senator Kupek is not in the chambers.
Okay. Well, members, we have before us a motion that will allow the Senate to bring back and pursue and bring back the integrity and honor to this institution again. We have not heard a Democrat from this chamber, not one, condemn the behavior that is being discussed today, that is being discussed throughout our state, that is being discussed, Mr. President, throughout the country, that is being discussed, Mr. President, across the world. We have a chance to correct that here today. Members, I encourage your support of Senator Housley's motion. And there is a roll call, so I won't ask that, Mr. President. Thank you.
Senator, we